Department Aggravated Assault Unit. We are here to discuss today a recent arrest that the Austin Police Department made yesterday, January 22nd, in reference to a case involving a subject who was impersonating, or rather falsely identified himself as an Austin police officer. On January 15th, 2024, the Austin Police Department became aware of photos that were circulated amongst members of the department and possibly the public depicting a subject in an Austin Police Department uniform. Based on those photos, a good number of Austin police officers, myself included, were able to determine that the subject in those photos was in fact not an Austin police officer. Based on those photos and the recognition that he was not an officer, an investigation was opened into this incident. Through the investigation, we were able to identify the suspect as a Sean McDonald of Pflugerville, pictured here. Yesterday, with the assistance of the Austin Police Department Violent Crimes Task Force, the suspect in this case was taken into custody and arrested on a charge of false identification as a peace officer, which is a Class B misdemeanor. At this time, the investigation is still ongoing, and we are now asking the public to come forward with any information involving this suspect and any acts that may have been committed while in or wearing that Austin Police Department uniform. At this point, we'll take some questions.
Detective, what's your concern and what's your message to people who may have had interactions with this individual?
Our message to them is simply that we would like to speak to them in reference to those interactions that they had with him, whether that be him just presenting himself in the uniform or him actually taking action, whether that be a traffic stop, detaining the subject, any type of action that would go beyond just wearing that uniform.
Is there indication that he was a blue light bandit, that he was pulling people over, scamming people?
At this point, we don't have any information to indicate that, which is why we're asking the public to come forward.
What was how did the arrest take place? Did he come in? Did officers find him?
So members of our Violent Crimes Task Force followed up on some leads and were able to track him down. Did some surveillance and were able to observe him yesterday, conducted a traffic stop, and were able to take him into custody without any incident.
Was he in uniform when y'all stopped him, or was
No.
he in civilian clothing?
He was not in the uniform.
Do you know any motivation behind this, or have you gotten any indication of why, or how long has he been working with that?
Won't be releasing that information because the investigation is still ongoing. But it has, as far as the timeline, it has been a couple years that he's been doing this.
Can you give, is there anything more specific, like just a couple years, 8 years?
The timeline's a little skewed, so to give you any exact timeline wouldn't be accurate.
Yeah, I read that that was 2020, so that's the earliest.
That's the earliest that we can determine. We're still investigating if it goes beyond 2020 and earlier.
What about these photos? Where did they come from?
So these were some of the photos that were made available to the department through open source that made us aware of his misrepresentation as an Austin police officer.
So they were like from social media or something?
Correct.
You know, I said ironic. Well, there's more question. The affidavit says that he worked at ABIA at the airport. Did he work in any type of law enforcement role or any kind of security role at the airport?
No.
Or was it just kind of like one of the stores?
No, there was no security, there was no law enforcement type of employment he had at ABIA. Nothing of that nature.
No security risk at ABIA?
No.
Was it like a custom-made suit or a uniform?
So the uniform was not acquired through any means of the department. That was all on his own.
So let's say, are there places that I've seen stories like this before where people can pick up, gear similar to police officers? Is that something you see? I mean, are there places out there that you're aware of that you could go pick up a uniform?
Absolutely. There are plenty of places online for any of these items to be found.
Is that a concern as an officer? I mean, as we see, this is not the only man who's done something like this over the years.
Correct. It is a constant concern, but because of the availability of these items and the internet's a pretty big place, you can find anything. So it is a concern, but it's not something that we here locally can do anything about. It's just something we have to be vigilant of, and when we see these cases, we need to just handle them accordingly, like we've done in this case.
Detective, this was apparently, he was tripped up on a dating app. Was this just all about picking up dates?
At this point, we're not entirely sure what the complete motivation was. This is just how the photos came to our attention.
Did you go through the academy or anything like that, or how did
No, he's never been an employee of the Austin Police Department in any function. He's never been a civilian employee, and he's never been a cadet trainee.
Is there one last question?
Any other law enforcement? Have tied him to any other small police department, security force, any kind of law enforcement location?
I can answer that question 100% and say he has never been a commissioned peace officer in the state of Texas. The governing body that regulates our licenses has never issued him a peace officer license.
Just one last question. I mean, if he's still in custody for cases like this, do you follow along after to make sure these people aren't reoffending or doing something like this? And if he were to reoffend, could he face even more charges?
His actions are going to dictate what we do, obviously. The investigation is still ongoing, so he's going to be followed up with for a little bit of time.
And have you ever seen anything like this in Austin? Is it a common occurrence? Does it happen? And if someone thinks they have an officer they see that's impersonating a police officer, what should we do? In my experience, I have yet to run across this type of case, and we can understand that the public is going to have some concern. Obviously, the uniform is pretty accurate. If you've ever had any type of contact with an Austin police officer, you know that's what we wear. If the citizens of Austin come into contact with an Austin police officer and because of this have a bit of fear or concern that they're being pulled over or contacted by a legitimate officer, they can always contact the Public Information Office and they can verify whether or not the person they spoke to is an Austin police officer. By our policy, we are to provide you with our name and badge number, and the public can follow up with the PIO office to confirm that. And if we find that that is not the case, then we will certainly look into this type of action again.
Thank you.
Do you have a statement in Spanish?
I'm sorry?
A statement in Spanish?
As far as what?
Just about the whole thing for Telemundo.
If you give me a few minutes, I can put something together.
Thanks, Dick. Oh, name, rank, serial number. Who are you?